Presented by Church Tech U, it's the ProPresenter Show. On today's show, a live streaming case study, how to set up live streaming with ProPresenter and an iPhone. Hi and welcome again to the ProPresenter Show. This is the show where I teach all about ProPresenter. My name is Paul Allen Clifford. And before we get started, if this is something you've wanted to do, just, quick and dirty, nice and simple, go ahead, like, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, all that fun stuff. So, starting back in 2020, Renewed Vision started rolling out features that enabled ProPresenter to do some pretty cool stuff. So, I thought that I would do a case study because one of my Church Tech U members, Merton Wilcox, said that he needs to do this, and I thought, well, what better way to do it than to show him just everything that I would go through if I was going to do that. So let's head over to my computer and we'll get started right away. So here we are in ProPresenter. I'm on version 17, and the first thing that you need to do is you need to have a way to get the video from your iPhone camera into ProPresenter. Now there's a couple of ways that you can do that, but here's what I'm doing. I'm using NDI-HX camera because basically you just run this and it becomes a camera. So I've got that running on my phone right here. That's a little freaky, but we've got that. So that is running right there. So I've downloaded it. It's not free, but once you've got it, you've got it. So NDI-HX camera, and by the way, this is from NewTek, the people that created NDI, so it's a legit thing. There are other ways of doing that, but this is the way that I think I'm going to recommend for this situation. So I just think that it's a little more reliable than some of the other possibilities, but there are some that I haven't tested yet, so keep that in mind. So first thing we need to do is we need to get video into ProPresenter. So let's go to ProPresenter, and then settings or preferences, depending on the operating system. And like I said, I'm in 17, so the stuff may be a little bit different if you're in an earlier version. So let's go to inputs right here. Okay, and first thing you're going to do, I'm going to get rid of a couple of these inputs real quick, just so that we can start basically from scratch. So, first off, you select inputs, and then you click Add Video Input for the first input. For subsequent ones, just click the little plus button here. I'm going to right-click on this. Actually, it doesn't want to do that, so they did just change this. So let's see if I can change the input name. Oh, change it down here. So let's call this iPhone 1. Okay, and then video source. Let's go down and here, let me hide myself real quick. Do you like these videos, but you'd really like to learn from me in person? Well, I've got some great news for you. I am traveling around the country and maybe even around the world training churches on how to use ProPresenter. So I've got either a 1 or a 1.5 day class that you can attend. For more details, head on over to TDM.fyi/events24, the top one right here, and register for the event nearest you. If there is no event that's near you, no problem. You can request one. So head on over to tdm.fyi/class request. That's this one down here, and you can say, hey, I'm interested in attending a class, or even I'm interested in hosting a class. Up to you which you prefer. In the last one, that is just information. It's not obligation, so don't hesitate to put your information in there, and I'll let you know when there's a class in your area, or we'll talk about what it takes to host a class. it's probably a lot less than you imagine that it is. So head over there, and I look forward to meeting you in person. The NDI HX camera is the one that I'm going to use. Now, I could use this. This is one of the other possibilities, but I think that this is just a little more reliable, and for 20 bucks it's worth it to me. So that's what I'm going to do right there. So that puts it right there. Audio source, this is up to you as to what you want to do. I'm going to say no audio source from this, and I'll tell you why here when we get to the audio portion. So let me lift up that, and you can see, you know, everything here. So that's working, and I don't have the I don't have any cables or anything. This is all wireless in every way. So NDI HX is a lighter weight version of doing this, so do keep that in mind. So that's thing number one. So with that said, I'm going to maybe just lean it here so that we can see some live video. You can still see my hand. Okay, so we're good there. Now, for audio inputs, I like to go to inputs here and then select the audio input that you want. Right now, it's got a different one selected, so let me get rid of that. Again, big plus button to select the audio input. And I've got some different choices. Let me just tell you that probably what you're going to want to do is, depending on how the audio is coming into your computer, you might have some different options, and we can talk about those later. But just to make this straightforward, I'm going to do the MacBook Pro microphone. Now, if I had audio coming into the audio jack, it would say not just the microphone. So I'm actually going to disable this. The only reason I'm disabling this is so that we don't get any kind of craziness. So if there's normally what you would want is you would want to enable this. Some other alternatives are the Scarlett 2i2, which is a USB audio interface, very inexpensive, and it has two XLR combo jacks on the front, so you can plug in either a 1/4-inch jack or you can plug in XLR into it. So that's probably going to be a great solution if you've got an audio board that you're taking audio from. So something like that. I've got one, I just don't have it plugged into my computer right now, or it would be listed here. Now, for mode, we've got a few different choices. Right now I've got mine set to off. If I always wanted the audio from the soundboard on, I would select on. If I wanted it auto off, what would happen is, well, it actually tells you it's disabled when a foreground video with audio is being played. Auto on, though, basically says, hey, pick the appropriate video source and only bring audio from the soundboard in when one of those video sources is selected. Right now I only have the one, so I'm going to check that. So this is probably the way that personally I would have it, so that when this video is selected, the video from this camera, when it's selected, and only then would I have that in there. Now I can change the audio delay if I need to. If it turns out that the audio is ahead of the video, I could add some audio delay there. Also, while I'm here, if I click on audio over here, I would probably default to having 4 channels here. And the reason for that is, I would have 2 channels so that I could do stereo for the in-person congregation, and then 2 channels so that I could do stereo for the live stream. And so 2 plus 2 is 4. And that way, that also gives me 3 possible configurations. If I'm sending audio, I can send audio out to all 4 channels, and it can go to both places, the live stream and the in-person congregation. I could just send it to the in-person congregation, or I could just send it to the live stream, or I could send it neither place. So I've got that as some flexible ways of doing things. Chances are most of the time it's going to be sending to both places, but just so that you know, that is something to keep in mind. Here under Inspector, it says Listen on Main. We can ignore that for now. Basically what that's saying is when you pop up Inspector, you could be playing a video. So what output should that go to? I talk about that more in the live stream. This main one is where you're sending the audio out to. So in the input section, we were saying where do we get the audio from that's going into ProPresenter. And now here in the audio section, we're saying when we're sending it out of ProPresenter, where do we send that out of? Again, you've got a lot of choices. I'm just sending it out of the HDMI on my computer, which I'm using some adapters, so that's why it says Me TV instead of HDMI or something. But that's basically what that is. And then if we click on the routing here, I've got this set for the in-person congregation, which are channels 1 and 2. They get the audio that goes out, but the audio from, going back to the inputs, audio inputs, the audio, and right down here I have a routing again, so the audio that is coming in here on this one speaker, you'd probably have 2, or this one microphone, you'd probably have 2, but I only have 1 right now. So I want that, right now it's going back out of 1 and 2. Well, that's for the in-person congregation, so I don't want that. I want it going to 3 and 4, which is for the live stream. So 1 and 2, notice it says ProPresenter channel. 1 and 2 are for the in-person congregation, 3 and 4 are for the live stream. So that actually helps as well to prevent an audio loop, which could cause feedback and all kinds of craziness. Maybe even, it might just subtly be an echo, but that's what I would want to do there. So with that said, let's go down here all the way to the bottom left, and we have video inputs. Here, I deleted these, so I'm going to go ahead and delete them so that we can get back to where we were. A good starting point. So now you would click on Add Video Input, and the video input, the only one that we've added right there is the iPhone. So I'll grab that, and now if I click on it, oh, I still had my key on from earlier. So you can still see the video here that is coming in. So that's good right there. So I've got video. Next, I think I'm going to figure out my routing of things. So if I go up to the upper right hand corner to looks, and I go down to edit looks, ignore all these presets. I can actually delete a bunch of these. So I'm actually just going to go through this just so that we can start from scratch again. Okay, so Let me actually back up one step and let's go to screens and then configure screens, because I'm going to make a screen that is just for my live stream. So I'm going to click on the little plus button next to the word audience here. And if I had an HDMI out I could use that, but since what I'm really trying to do is just live stream from within ProPresenter, a placeholder screen will work just as well. So I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom to new placeholder, and let's make that whatever resolution you want to be. In this case, I'm just going to do 1080p because I know that I have good internet, and so I'm good right there. I'm going to right click and rename that real quick to live stream. So there we go. So just to recap, I have a camera coming into ProPresenter. I've routed the audio. That's good. I've got a screen that its only job is for the live stream. And now I need to tell it what to show at what times. So let's go back, and from here, let's go back here and edit looks. And I'm going to, next to the word presets, I'm going to click the little plus button. Okay, and I'm going to right click and rename that to worship. And I might have a different one. Let's create a new one here that might be the sermon. So let me right click and rename that one. Now, theoretically, you might have multiples of these. Just pay attention to how you want it to be routed during different times during church. So if I go here to worship, first off, in my situation, I do not want the announcements layer to be shown to the congregation ever. So I'm going to uncheck that for audience, uncheck that for alpha. Vertical is where that is, because right now I'm actually using it for this. You may not be using that, so just ignore that one. Live stream here is what we're going to concentrate on. So every column, each of these 4 columns, is a screen. Okay. In my situation, this audience is the in-person congregation. The alpha is going to my video switcher. If you don't have a switcher, don't worry about it. Ignore that one. This one is the one that's going to my announcement layer, which I'm using for this, but just imagine that that's going to your lobby, your vestibule, your narthex, whatever your church calls the space outside of your sanctuary for announcement slides. So we can leave that as it is, and I'm going to put my live stream, uncheck that there. So that's good. Now, under media, during worship, I don't want a background media, so I'm going to uncheck that. And I don't want my video input, my iPhone camera, to go to either of my, well, any of my other screens. So basically, these, in this situation, are mutually exclusive. So I'm going to be, if I'm sending the video for my iPhone, I'm not going to be sending the media layer, and vice versa. So that's good. But what happens if I want to have full screen graphics in the center of the in-person congregation screen, but a lower third for the live stream? Well, what I'll do is I'll click on the little Ghostbusters symbol. I've got a math teacher in Church Tech U that tells me it's actually technically called the null set icon. Either way, I'm a Gen Xer, so it's Ghostbusters. So I'm going to click on it, and now I need to find a theme that is a lower third theme. I've got one right here. So what's happening here is there are no changes being made on any of these screens for the slides layer. For this one, it's taking the exact same information and using a theme to lower it and change the font and such. So let me click Make Live on that. And let's make sure, oh, I'm previewing the alpha. Sorry, my fault. Need to preview the live stream. So I've still got that video there. And what I'm going to do is, let's just do A Mighty Fortress is Our God. So with that selected, you'll notice that we've got full screen right here. And actually, let me go ahead and put a background up. Okay, so if I go to my audience screen, we see a background, and then when I go to my live stream screen, we have this. And so, and remember, this is live camera. I'm going to, in just a minute, take a look at why that's 4:3, because I would expect that it would be 16:9. So, anyway, I've got that. So that's good. So, maybe for the sermon, I basically don't want it to be like that. I want to have the full screen graphics because Pastor puts up a lot of scripture, and so, you know, there might be 4 or 5 lines, and I don't want to try and squish that into a couple of lines for a lower third. That might be why I would have the sermon look, which would be different. But anyway, all that to say, so for worship, I do want to make sure that I'm on this look, and now I can go to Live up here, upper right-hand corner, click on it, and go to Capture Settings, and we're going to set up our live stream. So first off, this no preset, once you have this all set up, go ahead and save it as a preset. But first, the source is which screen do you want to live stream, and I'm going to select the live stream screen that I just created. Destination disk means just record. I don't want to only record, I want to live stream, so I'm going to do RTMP. I happen to know that Merton said that he wanted to live stream to Facebook, so next you'll need to go to Facebook, grab the address and stream key and paste those in there, and then encoding. I created a 1080p screen, so this is probably the bare minimum I'm going to want. Make sure I do have in excess of 6 megabits per second up in order to live stream. If you'd created another screen that was some smaller resolution, notice these guidelines for how much upload speed bandwidth you have. So I'm going to change that to 30 here. So again, I would have pasted in my address and my stream key right here, and then I've got the resolution that I'm live streaming at right here. Save local copy enables me to record what I'm live streaming. Up to you if you want to do that. Just keep in mind that if you are just doing that for convenience sake, you may from time to time forget that you've done that. So maybe leave that off unless you know you want it. And then once again, routing. Remember how I said Pro Channels 1 and 2 are the in-person congregation? So I've muted what goes to the in-person congregation so that we only get what is going directly for us. So that's that there. So having set that up, I could go ahead and save that as a preset. You know, save it, live stream to Facebook, or whatever you want to call it. You could call it Bob if you want to. I wouldn't, because that's going to be confusing to someone else in the future, but that would work. Just give it a name that makes sense to you. And then for audio routing, I did set that up. Almost forgot. So now I could click Start Stream. It's not going to do anything if I do it, because I haven't pasted in the address. Notice it starts with rtmps://, but other than that, it kind of looks like a web address. So that's the one you paste in there. The key is this big long alphanumeric thing. It basically, the way I think about it, it's not technically like this, but think of it as that is the password. So this is where you're sending it, and this is the password so that you can send it, which is partially why I'm not actually showing this, because if someone had that information, they could live stream on my account on Facebook. So that's why I'm not actually doing that. So that is kind of the basics of how you have it. Now that this is set up, I could, in subsequent weeks, just click the start stream and it'll work, and then I'm good to go. I could use actions on every single, at the beginning of every major break that I wanted to change the routing of the layers for looks. So I could do that like when I get down to the sermon, which I need to figure out. Oh, there's one right there. So I could right click, add an action, audience look, and I could add the sermon. And then automatically, as soon as I click on that slide, it's going to change this worship look to the sermon look. So that's what I would do. Probably the very first song, I'd add the action to change the audience look to the worship look, and then when I click on that first one, it's going to start. And then when I get to the next major one, have an action that changes that audience look, and then there we go. So one thing that I do need to check right here while we're in here is I'm going to go up to ProPresenter and settings and go to inputs, and let's take a look if there's any reason why that's 4:3 instead of 16:9. So I don't know why. It's maybe a setting in that particular app. Let me look here on it. Okay, that actually stopped it. So I'm going to try right-clicking on that. No, that didn't do it. That made, I go down here to video inputs. That just made that thumbnail. So that's not it. So oh, turns out that's the setting. So there was in fact a setting on this app. So that's what the problem was. I'm just going to set that down, and that solved that. So it's a looks like a circle with a like a speedometer, and then underneath it there's like a little slider. So I could just tap that, and I think that basically the default setting for that was low bandwidth, so I boosted that up to the medium setting, and I think we're good to go there. So that solved that problem, and that's what there is to it. There's a lot of steps, which is why I wanted to record this. And so that should be helpful to anyone that's in a similar situation. By the way, you can add multiple iPhones if you wanted to, multiple video sources, and then you could just click on each one of those down here to switch between those sources. So other than that, once you have it set up, it's basically just using ProPresenter. So that's my case study on how to add an iPhone as a video source for a live stream in ProPresenter, starting with version 17. It's very similar in earlier versions. It's just where stuff is located in the settings or preferences is basically the difference there. If you like this content, you'd probably like my ProPresenter 7 Quick Start course, so head on over to TDM.fyi/pro7 and quick. Give me your name and email address, and I'll make a login for you for free. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.